So I'm really excited to share with you today. All right, so let's jump in. The 3 key positions for success. We're going to talk about the unicorn team. So the unicorn team is made up of 3 roles. And note that the word roles is really important, not people, but roles. Okay. When you install the unicorn team model into your business, you will unleash untapped talent that you never saw. Like that picture of Sarah that I showed you. I didn't even know how talented she was until that moment. And a lot of times we are trying to avoid conflict or ignore that conflict is happening. And what's happening as a result of that is you don't even know how talented your team really is. Because as the visionizer, which is all of you in the room right now, I'm a visionizer as well. We like to fix things on our own. We're lone rangers, right? And by trade, because we started this business, whatever business we're in, on our own, usually, right? And that's the main thing that really happens is you unleash this untapped talent that can actually scale the business sustainably if you allow this method to work inside of your business. The next thing is you're going to collapse time, increase energy, and multiply your money. Who doesn't want more of that? Everybody say hell yes in the chat. Okay. You want to increase your energy, multiply money, and eliminate waste, right? Because I did a post today on the fact that I was in the corporate world. I'm going to talk about my story a little bit more tomorrow. But I did miss about the corporate world, a big ass budget, like unlimited budgetary, hardly any constraints around that, tons of team members that could help out, usually a more stretched out timeline, right? And so as business owners, we don't have the luxury of waste. Y'all get that, right? And that's why you even being here means a lot, because it tells me that this is something you're taking seriously and that you actually want to change. And you don't even know what this is yet fully, right? And listen to that. The next is you're going to learn how to humanize artificial intelligence by applying authentic intelligence. Okay. In the world of the future and the world of now, there's a lot of concerns around AI replacing teams and tasks, et cetera. And it will replace some of the teams and tasks, but it won't replace you unless you want it to. Because what you have as a human leading something that's helpful to other people is that you have authentic intelligence to create craft and mastery in the world that AI is only operationalizing and systemizing, okay? Next is you're going to lead a values-driven company instead of a results-only company. And then you're going to build a sustainable brand from the inside out. The unicorn team is the brand on the inside, and the messenger, which is you, the visionizer, is on the front end of the brand. So the brand is on the left. One hemisphere is the back end, right? Which is the unicorn team. The front end is how you're messaging, marketing, and selling yourself. Okay. So today's scope in our training today and tomorrow is going to be all about that back end, because that's the part that people don't show. That's the part that even you, perhaps as a visionizer, hasn't thought about. How do you share that? How do you show that? Or do you at all? Because sometimes you don't have to do that at all. But what it should do, if you are running a unicorn team business, your customer should feel that. Whatever that magic is that says, wow, I had a great experience with that company. Wow, that product was great. Wow, that service was super useful. It actually created a transformation in my life, right? That particular thing is the unicorn team. And we've named it because a lot of people talk about sales and marketing, which obviously we do too. But when I was writing this book, I'm writing a book called Unicorn Team, and nobody wanted it. I was so frustrated and hurt. Honestly, like I had all my feelings out, still have my feelings around it. And they were like, people don't want to learn about the team behind the brand. They want to learn about the visionizer or the visionary, as most people call them. And I was like, okay, well, self-made is a lie. Let's all say that self-made is a lie. And if people who are like us don't understand what it actually takes to build something epic, build something iconic on your own terms, it is this. This is what it takes. Okay. So, what is the unicorn team? Okay. Again, it's comprised of the visionizer, the strategizer, and the mobilizer. Okay. The visionizer, I like you to think of it as the personal brand of the business. And in today's world, whether we like it or not, the founder is important to the story. And storytelling is everything. So knowing how to build your personal brand as the founder of your company is important. Okay. The next piece is the strategizer. And I like to call that the offer brand or the product brand. Okay. They're in charge of the front end of the business, which is marketing and sales, right? So that's all about the product offers or the service, right? That's the brand. And the company brand is your back end, your operations, and your finance, basically how the machine works, right? The strategizer is the message, the mobilizer is the machine. Okay. So let me give you a real life example. In the corporate world, a brand we all know is Apple, right? So the personal brand is, why don't you guys answer in the chat? Who is the personal brand for Apple? It's all coming in. All right, Steve Jobs, right? Everybody knows that. What is, if you were to pick their most popular product right now, what would you say their main offer brand is? Exactly, the iPhone. Ooh, we got a smart crowd here. The iPhone, right? And what is the company brand? Right, Apple. So I want you to be thinking about, if I were to tell you who's the personal brand of your business, it would be you. What is the offer brand of your business? You could have multiple offer brands, but what is the signature offer that you know, if you were to sustainably scale it, you could live very well and also pursue new ideas? And then finally, what is the company brand? Out of the three brands, what is the most important of the three? The offer brand. Okay? Because without sales, there is no company. Without sales, your company does not exist. It ceases to exist. And so when I say that, it doesn't mean that this is the most important. What it means is that when you think about how you want to sustainably scale, you have to think about what it takes to make this offer win. That's the main goal of a unicorn team. How can we make this offer win such that our company becomes a company that people can depend on, are excited about, fall in love with, tell people about, and from a personal brand perspective, that this offer and this company can outlive this person? Because I used the Apple example specifically because Steve Jobs is no longer here. He got fired from his own job as a visionizer and came back and created innovations that much of the way that we communicate today is based on. That's pretty epic. Whether you liked Steve Jobs or not, what it also told me is that he built something that people inside his business felt that they could be part of. He built something, they may not have liked him, and I'm not excusing any bad behavior on the visionizer part, but visionizers are freaking intense, dude. Am I right, Sarah? Like, visionizers are intense people. Whether you show it on the outside or not, you're an intense thinker. You see things. You are somebody that like sees it before anybody else sees it, right?
And I think too, if people think like, oh, I'm not intense, if you think about like how quickly the ideas and the variations of ideas that come for you, that feels natural for you, that feels intense for other people who don't think that
Yes.
way, for sure.
Yes, yes, thank you. That's a great point, right? And that intensity it can affect your company and offer brand, your mobilizer and your strategizer. And so it's finding the cadence between that this particular framework helps to support. All right. So some of you, have you ever heard of the business model that looks like you just need a visionary and an integrator? Which book or books is that from? If any of you have ever done any research on how to build a team. Visionary and integrator. Have you guys heard of this concept? Yeah. So In Traction and Rocket Fuel, they're two books that are kind of like the textbooks for small business. And when I say this, please note that I am not dogging on them. In fact, up until I realized in 2020 that, oh my gosh, we have a better framework than that, I was recommending it to everybody. And I do think that the concepts inside of both of those books are good. I just want to say that. But one thing to me they've got dead wrong is that you need just a visionary and an integrator to make your business grow, to scale it. That is lies. And those are lies. And I just can't deal with it. So that's why we don't call ourselves visionaries. We call ourselves visionizers. Why is that important? It's important because the suffix "eyes" right here it creates action to a word that it's attached to, right? And airy makes it a noun. So visionary is a noun, visionizer is a noun, but without the R, it is a verb. Because your brand and your business is a verb, right? A static business and a static brand is not a real thing. Your business always has to grow. It doesn't need to grow 10x, but it has to keep up with inflation, for God's sakes, right? Like, how many of you are like, oh my gosh, this inflation is wild right now? Guess what? Your business has to stay ahead of it, not just you as a consumer, not just you as a person, right? So your business is a verb. It is always growing in proportion to the visionizing you do, not the visionarying you do, okay? Also, there's no such thing from an integrator perspective that does everything that's in this triangle, right? So I'll be hearing people like say, oh, well, I got an integrator for that. And I said, okay, what exactly is that integrator doing for you? And they're like, oh, they're checking my mail and they're building my funnels and they're doing my social media, and then they're also writing content for me. And I'm like, wow, that is a unicorn. And I'm like, are you feeling like it's being done really well? And they're like, no, why am I talking to you? That's why I need you, right? And I'm like, exactly, because you've thrown every person who's not you into a bucket called integrator, and that doesn't work. You want to sort the roles of your business under these three pillars: vision, strategy, and mobilization. Okay. The difference between the unicorn team method and any other business scaling models is that we are focused on ownership of the three roles, meaning the visionizer is not the only owner of the results. And why this is important is because a lot of productivity and team stuff, they talk about accountability. And let's face it, humans neurologically, actually, we repel accountability. We're not that interested in accountability, right? Because that looks like a lot of micromanaging, saying that we're wrong, being late on stuff when we can't control other humans because other humans are infuriating, right? Have you ever worked with somebody else and you're like, man, I can get my stuff done, but what up with this person, right? A lot of that stuff is going on your team. Trust it and believe it. Even if you have part-time contractors or virtual assistants, each human has their own values system and they're going after different things. And so our whole model is based on ownership. And when I say ownership, I'm not talking about like you have to give equity away. If you want to do that, that's great, right? If you want to do revenue sharing, that's great. But that's different than the concept of owning the result, owning it all the way through and feeling confident that you can do it. And by the way, not just you, but the other two roles on your team. Okay. All right. So let's kind of deep dive under each one of the roles. And the first is obviously the visionizer, which is the personal brand. They own the future pace of the brand. They own the creation of the intellectual property and the bigger vision of the brand. They own the networking and connecting with the right people to grow the brand. Even if you're an introvert, I'm an introvert, but I'm big on small hinges, tiny hinges, open big doors. And if you've read any book on success, what I do agree with is that they say it's about the who, not the how. And if you don't have any time to be around people or be advised by people who actually know how to do this, you are not acting as a visionizer. You are acting as a mobilizer and a strategizer in your business, and that's not going to grow you. Okay. If your business is beneath $5 million a year or more, you also own the overall revenue number. If it's above that, typically the strategizer owns that because they own the products. Okay. Is there anybody here in the room who is doing more than $5 million a year in business by any chance? And by the way, more than $5 million a year is not a big deal to me either. I'm not impressed by that. Not whoever, if you said yes, it's not that I'm not impressed with you, Lisa. Yes. It's not about the money. It's about how much you get to keep and how much you get to have your life. Please remember that. None of us were born to run a business that takes up all of our time for the rest of our life. That's not what we were born for. So it's not about having an 8-figure business, a 7-figure business. It's about having a business that helps people, that pays you well, that helps you, helps other people that need to help you, which are your team, to see the vision and want to help you with it. That's what a unicorn team is. Let's move on to the strategizer, who is the offer brand. They're in charge of the offers, whether it's products or services or both. So what do they own? They own strategically creating all the sales and marketing initiatives that support making that revenue number quarterly. They own the strategy around the messaging and creating a scalable platform to a bigger audience. So they're in charge of traffic and conversion. They own the products and offers and forecasting of the revenue streams. And they own the translation between the visionizer's future and the mobilizer's daily events. Because the mobilizer, I'm going to talk about that person or that role in a moment. The mobilizer is a day-to-day person. The visionizer is a future person. Okay. So the strategizer is the one that helps translate going forward what we need to change. Now, how many of you have been acting as the strategizer in your company? Meaning like you've been in charge of all of the marketing and sales, generally speaking. You might have people that help you, but you're still driving the marketing and sales. Mm-hmm. And how many of you who are like love doing that? And it's okay either way. There's no judgment, whatever your answer is. Because the truth is that visionizers are better at what they do. They're not great at selling and marketing what they do, but they're great at what they do, right? And so I'm going to talk about the stages of how you apply these rules inside of your business in a moment. But our goal is to get a full-time strategizer. That's ultimately the goal of a company, because strategizers are actually, I would say they're the most unicorny of them all. Because strategizers can become visionizers. And that's who I was. When I came to be an entrepreneur, my corporate life, I was a master strategizer. I ran strategy and marketing for one of the biggest technology companies in the world. And I have this skill of seeing products and offers and services sold. I can see how to sell them, how to message them, how the back end system has to work, how the brand experience needs to work. And so even me coming into my own as a business owner 16 years ago, I had to promote myself back to visionizer. The goal for you, if you're here, is that you stay firmly in your visionizer role and that you work hard. And yes, I did use the word hard. I don't care. We do have to work hard to replace the mobilizer and the strategizer roles that we start off with. Okay. The third is the mobilizer, which is the company brand. They own the team's focus and helps the team with context, the why, the nuance, and the discernment, because mobilizers by trade are not context people. They are task people, which is great. You need people to close tasks, close loops, make sure things get done, right? But sometimes they're not thinking about the overall strategy or where the company is going. And so a master mobilizer is someone who can do that for the mobilizers under them, okay? They own the leadership of the communication of the company through systems. And our definition of systems is people, process, and technology. So those are three different areas of systems in a company. So when you hear somebody saying they want to systemize things, my first question is, are you systemizing people, process, or technology? What's the right thing to do? They also own the timeline and the scope of all the projects and manages the team on the daily, and they own ensuring that all the KPIs for the company are created and met quarterly. Okay. So before I jump into the next part, so Stacy, great. Stacy asked, where does client delivery fall if you are the visionizer? Well, client delivery is in the mobilizer role, but you can be a deliverer as a visionizer. This is just managing the, like, who owns it. So for this case, let's say in my company, Sarah is mobilizing product delivery, right? If I'm one of the, now I've moved from visionizer to actually performer or speaker or teacher, right? But that doesn't change that I'm a visionizer. Does that make sense? So client delivery is definitely in the mobilizer area. Ultimately, the visionizer owns the entire brand experience because it's their face that's the founder of this company. But inside of this unicorn team framework, it's about who owns making sure that shit gets done, right? And that's where the magic really is. All right, before I move on to the stages of unicorn ownership, any other questions like Stacy's? Really good question, Stacy. Or tell me what was one of the biggest things, or maybe there was something that was a breakthrough for you as you were listening to how we define the V, the S, and the M. And Sarah, I don't know if you want to add anything to something that I said about the three roles and how maybe you, even as we came about naming it, how you started to see things a little differently.
Yeah, I really like that there's the three pieces. I know you talked about it a little bit earlier. Usually there's this idea of there's the visionizer and the CEO and this one person, and then there's their second in command. And I feel like in the beginning stages for me, before I was as seasoned of a mobilizer as I am now, and even not understanding strategy as well as I do way better now, there felt like there was so much pressure that as a mobilizer going through and trying to figure out all the things and check off the boxes, that I was constantly not quite meeting the metric or the mark of what I could see the company needed to grow, and feeling like I kind of had to take all of those things in. And I think that happens a lot. I see, you named, you didn't directly name, but you inferred at the top of all the big names in the industry that we work with. And part of that work is me on the inside of their teams. And I see a lot. I can 100% bet I would put if we were playing poker, I would go all in, all the chips in on, if you think that your team is not having conversations amongst themselves, disagreements amongst themselves that you might not know about, or feeling like they're not really understanding that. And that's whether you have a team of 1 or 15 or 50. If you don't think that that's happening, you're wrong. It is happening. There's a lot that they're processing that they don't know how to bring to the space of being able to name out loud, because generally the unicorn team really is committed to the visionizer and is committed to the vision. And we just really want to do a good job. Like, I'll speak for myself, and I think for 99% of the strategizers and mobilizers that I've worked with, we just want to do a good job. And I love that this framework kind of helps us see individually how we can play to what our strengths are, where we're leaning in. It gives us a common reference point for us to communicate as that VSM trio of what we're talking about, to know what hat we're wearing when. There are times that Jen and I are having a conversation and I'm getting like really into the weeds with all this. And she's like, hold on, this is not a strategizer conversation. I'm not asking you to fix this situation. I'm talking from a visionizer point of view. I'm painting this overarching meta vision. I need you to just hang out with me here a little bit so I can make sure that you're seeing this before we move on. And that for me is super helpful, because I'm like, oh, okay, hold on. Sorry, I'll dial it back. Let me try to repeat back to you what I'm hearing you say the vision is, that this is right. Am I getting that picture right? No, it's kind of like this. Or yes, it's exactly like that. Okay, cool. Now we can move on, and I'll be like, okay, so I'm going to come up with this checklist, and she can go, oh, hold on. I don't need to be wearing the mobilizer hat. I trust you. Make the checklist, come back, and I'll look at it later. We don't have to spend this time now. Let's look at something else that we can kind of talk through. So it's really, really helpful. Instead of putting this pressure on ourselves, I think sometimes it's like, oh, if we're doing this right, the people who are doing it right, they just know all the things. There's Steve Jobs, and then there's implementation team that just made the iPhone that sold millions of dollars. And that's not billions of dollars, right? That's just not how human dynamics work. So that's one of my favorite things, I think, Jen, about this particular model.
Yeah. And I definitely want to point to something you said, is that we will name what role we're wearing at any given time in our conversations. Okay. Did you hear that Sarah said that? So for example, again, if I felt like something didn't go as I thought would, I'd like it to go, let's say it's in client delivery, since Stacy mentioned that. What Sarah will say, again, she'll be like, okay, let's go fix that. And it's up to me to say, actually, I don't need it to be fixed at the moment. What I want to ideate with you right now is what it could be once we reach another level. And it's because visionizers tend not to communicate like that. It's, by the way, it's all our fault, just to let you know. Okay. Sarah's like, yes, somebody who admits it. I saw Pam Slim, she commented on my Instagram post where I talked about, like, if you don't use the unicorn team process, like as a visionizer, who do you become? And my answer was the villain, right? And Pam Slim, if you guys don't know who Pam Slim is, she's like, oh my gosh, she's one of the OGs in the coaching world.
She's
and
amazing.
She's amazing. And she wrote one of my favorite books, which is Escape from Cubicle Nation. And anyway, but she was like, oh my God, Jen, I'm the villain, right? And if you look at Pam, and Pam works with a lot of teams, you would never think, oh my gosh, Pam screws up sometimes. Of course she does, right? Leaders, we got a lot to think about. Don't even mention, I mean, most of us in here, I think are women, and we've got other invisible duties, right? Invisible labor that we're handling too, right? Besides running our businesses. And so it's interesting how this framework, even if like you walk away from this training, just being able to use those 3 roles right, you will find significant optimization inside of your business, like guaranteed. Because we have private clients right now who, before this training is new, you guys, like I've never actually laid it out all in front of people like this, never. Okay, I've talked about it. But just talking about this triangle, people are like, oh my gosh, I had this great strategizer conversation with my team today. where they were playing the role as strategizer because they needed to, because they don't have the revenue to hire a full-time strategizer. You know what I mean? I'm going to talk about this in the stages of unicorn ownership next, but I think that like it's a way of leading. It's a mindset that actually has definitions that help you become better. And when women get rich and recognized, we can change all the crappy shit in the world.
Amen.
And like, I love that mainly women are here, because if we start leading like this, all the bad actors can't survive, right? So anyway, let's just see where your questions are. Tamara asked, strategizer sounds like a combo of product development and sales and marketing. Is that accurate, like a CMO? Yeah, I mean, in the corporate world, the visionizer is the CEO, the strategizer is the CMO, and the mobilizer is the COO, right? Generally speaking. But yes, product development is usually done between the three. But the monetizing and the performance of it is owned by the strategizer. Lisa says, if I can trust and learn to delegate more, I can be more the visionizer I know to be. Yeah. And delegation, that's another word, just like scale, that irritates me on the online streets, because it's like, here, let me just go delegate everything I got to do in my business. And how come they can't like do everything I gave them? Again, visionizer. Yeah. And I'm like, it's not about the how, because you might not know the how, but it's the way to talk and engage with your team. It's about the communication cadence. It's about the types of meetings you should be having, right? All of those structures, we mentor and advise brands how to do that, because there is a process that's also not glunky and funky and like, oh my God, we got to learn a new system. It's actually going to streamline most of your systems.
Sarah and I, kind of like a filter, wouldn't you say, Jen? Like it's it's not rose-colored glasses, but you got these unicorn team colored glasses that you're seeing and filtering everything through.
Yeah. And Sarah and I like, she can call hers what she wants to, but I brand the way that I lead fancy lazy. I call it fancy lazy. And that means to me that I definitely want to have the things I want in life. But I want to find the most optimal way to get there. I don't want to live a complicated life, and I don't want to run a complicated business. Amen. I don't know about y'all. Okay. But if you want that, again, not your people. Okay. But you can stay and listen. Okay. But when I think about how this works, and this is actually the process I used to use when I was an executive in the corporate world, I just didn't realize that I had created my own framework. And a lot of us don't realize the intellectual property we have because we're so busy being the mobilizer and strategizer in our business.
That part.
Right? So when I, during 2020, had an opportunity to actually be in my visionizer, because prior to that, I was doing a lot of the strategizing because I have experience in it. I am qualified to do it, but that's not my role in life anymore, right? Because I chose to start my own business. So there's definitely a separation between visionizer and strategizer, Amy. And it's really like the types of things that they own. Kimberly said, it's possible to be too far ahead as a visionizer and maybe in this training prematurely. Actually, you can never be too far ahead as a visionizer. The moment you say, I want to start a business, you are a visionizer, period. There is no like learning how to become one after you've hit 6, 7, 8 figures. It's actually from the beginning deciding that you want to grow your business like this. You being here is not premature. What it means is that you're smart, because you're like, I don't want to build my empire on sinking sand. I want to build my empire on concrete. I want to build it on something solid. I want to, when I can afford to hire people, I want to be able to lead them like this. So congratulations for being here, because it just means that you're smart. Naomi says, I love the thought that each role needs to own. Yes, ownership over accountability all day long. Okay. Carly or Carlin, I think. Carly. Multiple offers making you stuck in pushing a signature offer. Okay, so we're not going to talk about offers today, because offers is part of the front end. Offers is part of the messenger side. Okay. We're talking about the back end. Don't worry about the offers that you have and whether they're good or not, think about how you have to think as a strategizer. That's what we're going to focus on.
And I think too, as a visionizer, I think, for those of you who say, oh, I feel like maybe I'm not ready yet, there are a lot of big name people that we've worked with, a lot of very successful business owners who are making a lot of money in their business. And we'll do a VIP day, or there's something that's going on, or we're preparing content for them. And they are still also figuring out the iterations of their intellectual property. They're figuring out their messaging, their frameworks, how they deliver transformation, how they want to talk about it. And so I really think, Jen, that sometimes I think we have this idea that a true visionizer, for example, like Steve Jobs, he had this one idea of how to revolutionize technology through the iPhone. And that was the only idea he ever had. And he just knew, and that it was an amazing success. But I really don't think it's like that. I think there's a lot of iterative processes. That's why we say visionizer. If you have a vision and you're taking action on it through those iterations, you're 100% in the right place. And you definitely need the support of a mobilizer first, and then the strategizer that helps you integrate those iterations and bring it to the masses at a greater and a bigger impact. But I feel like sometimes maybe when we compare ourselves to people like Walt Disney and successful business owners who have done all these things, we think, oh, my vision is not as great as, therefore I'm not ready, or therefore it's, like those kinds of things. I hear those conversations all the time. But it's just not true. Everyone at even 8-figure business owners are still thinking about their intellectual property and practicing over and over again how to teach their own things. And you're really not alone in this.
Guess what? Here's another thing that might blow your mind. If some of these 8-figure business owners who we love, they're clients of ours, but they've built themselves a golden cage, meaning now that they have such a great signature offer, they can't get out of it. They're basically fucked. And they're like, please get me out of this, or else I can't afford my life.
Yes.
And like, what I'm saying, so what I'm saying is congratulations that you're getting ahead of this, so that you don't build yourself a golden cage, right? I always say, like, if you want to be successful, do what white people do, but like a woman would, a white man would do, but like a woman would. And what I mean by that is, in the corporate world, there's all these, what they call golden parachutes, right? If any of you watch Succession, you probably have heard that term too. So a golden parachute is basically, they've set it up so that once the company goes public or whatever, they get paid billions of dollars, all right? And our job as entrepreneurs is to build our own golden parachutes, not golden cages, right? And so it's so funny. And I'm going to talk about this. This is perfect that we're moving into this next, because this is the myth of 8-figure plus success, especially if you're an online or services-based expert. Okay. So I'm going to go into it in a moment. So the bottom line is, like, there's 4 stages of your business. And I didn't make this up: forming, storming, norming, and performing. It's actually a corporate term, but it's 100% applicable to small business. Okay. And how you use the unicorn team. So in stage 1, you're forming, right? This is the startup stage. You have very little capital and you have a whole lot of courage that you need to muster to get this thing off the ground. Okay. The goal in the forming stage is to create a minimum viable product, or an MVP. Okay. And what that means is that you've had enough people buy it that tells you that more people would buy it if you were to put more energy behind it. In the forming stage, what happens, as Sarah was mentioning, there are iterations that you go through. You're testing what traffic will work. There's 3 types of traffic. Okay. Paid, partnership, and organic traffic, right? Then you're also testing the business model again. For example, let's say you're a consultant and you come and you're like, I want to build a course-based business. Okay. And you're intent on building a course-based business because everybody says that's how you get magic money deposited into your account every month, especially if it's on a membership, like monthly recurring revenue, right? I'm going to tell you right here, in the forming stage, nobody should be building a course or a membership. What they should be doing is working with real people. Okay. Then you can scale your stuff to course and membership, right? That's a business model. Okay, so your business model will shift. It will be in the beginning working directly with people, having people really try your product or service, all that stuff. And then you're going to see, oh, could I add a course business model to this particular business model, et cetera? But you don't know that yet until you actually do it. All right. So basically, in the forming stage one, you are the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, the visionizer, the strategizer, and the mobilizer. You are all three of these, and whatever you want to add to it: wife, mom, soccer player, spoken word poet, like just name it. Like you're all of those things in stage one. Now, don't let that depress you, okay? Because that's exciting. Because now you don't feel bad that you actually have to own all three of these roles. You do. So how can you actually get some pressure off of you in stage one? Here are our recommendations. Hire admin mobilizers to do what I call $10 tasks. So $10 tasks look at anything that a person way more experienced than you could do. An example for me, I do not clean toilets. I retired from that about 20 years ago, not because I'm a diva, but it's just because I don't enjoy it. And I decided when I started my business, people thought this was a little bougie, but it's not. I just decided, hey, I can't clean my house, pay attention to my kids, work my job, and do my side hustle, which was this company now 16 years later at the same time. So one's got to give. I'm not going to stop paying attention to my kids. I need my job because I need income. And then I want to start this business. I was in stage one. So I took a part of my salary and I got my house clean once a week. It cost me $300 at the time, a month. And for me, that was a big deal. Like, oh my God. Plus I'm Filipino. So it was really embarrassing because I didn't want my mom to know, because she'd be like, what's wrong with you? You're a bad Asian, But I decided that I wasn't going to listen to all that anymore and do a task that somebody actually would be thrilled to have that income, right? That they would be thrilled that I would be providing their family and that I could then focus my 2 hours a week to work on my business. Okay. That's a personal task. But another task is visionizers, generally speaking, are not organized people. Generally speaking, are not organized people. The issue is that you either think you're organized and you're not, or you're a control freak. That doesn't mean you're organized. Okay. So a $10 task is like organizing your Dropbox cemetery, organizing all of your passwords in one place. These are $10 tasks that a virtual assistant would be thrilled to support you with. Okay. So in the beginning, stage one, you want $10 tasks to go to mobilizers so that you can focus on $100 and $1,000 tasks. That's what I call them. $1,000 tasks are big ideas, things that could be potentially your MVP. And then $100 ideas are like learning. Let's say you take a course on creating a funnel in stage one because you don't have the money to hire a marketing team. So you're like, hey, I'm going to spend $2,000 on this course and I'm going to learn it. That's actually a good use of your time, right? That's a $100 task because ultimately it's not going to make you any money. What's going to teach you is that you hate marketing and therefore you need to make more money sooner so you can hire better people. In stage one, your number one goal is to get your messaging nailed by doing the things that are under this, all the bullets here. Messaging is everything. Funnels don't work without messaging. Marketing doesn't work without messaging. Social media doesn't work without messaging. People will not buy your stuff if they don't understand how it can help them. That's what messaging is. So in stage one, your 100% goal should be eliminating $10 tasks and getting your messaging nailed. Okay. Does that good? Yes, Courtney. Oh my God. You managed a hostel. Praise you. You're better than me. They would fire me. Okay. So now let's move to stage two, which is storming. Okay. At stage two, you've graduated to making at least 6 figures in your business in profit, not just in sales or revenue, but profit. Okay. By this time, your MVP is proven so that you can do case studies and have other, what I call authority currency. Authority currency is basically like anything that shows that your product helps people. Okay. The other thing is what's so interesting, if that 6 figures in profit scares you, it only scares you because you don't realize actually how easy it is to do that because you're focusing on the wrong stuff. All right. In fact, a lot of the 8-figure people that you know or have like admire, they actually don't even have 6 figures in profit. They just know how to do traffic well, but that's why they're in a gilded cage. They're in marketing hell. And if they stop spending money on marketing, their business can't grow. So they'll probably have to sell their IP. So they should sell their IP, but then they don't want to sell their IP because they're control freaks. These are all real stories in the underground, okay, of real business owners. And so the next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to start paid traffic, because in stage 1, you're looking at a lot of organic and partnership traffic, right? But in stage 2, you have a little bit of money to start doing some paid traffic trials, doing some tests around that. And you're continuing to test that the business model that you're running your products on works for you and is something that people continue to want. So at this point, you are the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, the visionizer, the strategizer, and a part-time mobilizer. What do I mean by that? At this point, you need to hire a full-time mobilizer at stage 2. Okay. What does that mean? You want your Sarah 9 years ago that I met in a nonprofit that I was teaching at. And she came in to help her husband grow his graphic designer business. And when I was teaching class, all I noticed was how freaking organized she was. How every week she would come to class with her binder and all her stuff done. And I was like, okay, you look like somebody that is a great mobilizer. Now, I didn't call her that at the time. But at that point, and Sarah, like people think, oh, dang, how did you afford Sarah back then? Let me just tell you, I could not afford Sarah. And Sarah did not have any idea what she should make.
Yeah, no.
Sarah was making like $15 an hour when we first started.
Like, yep.
Okay.
In Hawaii, I was like, oh, that's way above minimum wage. I'm here for it. I felt injected when I applied. You told me you're way overqualified for this. I don't know if you're going to be happy with this position. Yes. She reached out to me and said, I would like to work with you. Yes. And I was like, you're overqualified. And she's like, I am? I don't do this work that you're asking for. And I'm like, just by observing you, I can tell that you are like super organized and that you're going to be upset because I have a lot of crazy ideas that I need implemented. And she's like, that's what I do. I'm your huckleberry, you know? And I think a lot of times when we're at stage 2, we're so stressed out as visionizers that we don't open our eyes to become visionizers and focus on what is the right thing to do is to get rid of mobilization in our life. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. So your number 1 job during this stage is to find your Sarah. And you will be surprised that somebody wants to grow with you. Look at, I use Steve Jobs and Apple because we all know, but most of us, in fact, I don't think any of us want to build the next Apple. Like, who would want to do that? Like, that just sounds very stressful. But guess what? Whether you're a $1 trillion business like Apple is, or you're a 6-figure business like some of you are, process is the same. Steve Jobs didn't know how to implement his big ideas. That's why he recruited Steve Wozniak, you know, who was organized and geeky and nerdy and knew how to code, right? And Steve Jobs was a strategizer and Wozniak was the mobilizer. And they built something great. And the same is true of what you could do if you're running your team like a unicorn team. So at this point, you want to hire part-time strategizers to do marketing and sales work. Okay. But you are still doing marketing and sales, but just not the administrative part of marketing and sales because the mobilizer will do that for you. So Sarah, let's give an example. Let's give an example. Yeah. See, like I mean, read my mind. Yes. Okay, but no admin. So for example, you shouldn't be doing the web dev to build your landing pages. It should not be you in the CRM system, your customer relations management system, whether that's Active Campaign or Entreport or Infusionsoft. You shouldn't be setting up segmentation or scheduling emails to go out or doing any of the tagging. All of the like
you shouldn't
scheduling.
be doing your own. You should be doing your own Facebook ad setup.
Oh
you
man,
be
no.
Doing, you shouldn't be doing, scheduling, calendaring, any
you
of
shouldn't
that.
be in your project management system. No, this is all for your unicorn team to take on all of those things.
So when I say you're still doing marketing and sales, what I mean is you are building partnerships with other people who have aligned audiences with you, right? You are still taking sales calls probably, right? You are doing, the DMs, right? You are like doing live streams if that's your way of letting people know, or you're writing articles, right?
Crafting signature talks.
Crafting stuff, stuff like that. That stuff you're doing.
All those things, yes.
But you're not doing the cranking under it by setting up the funnels and blah, 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 blah. You go and hire experts for that because you have 6 figures in profit. So trust me, I know this is hard, job, but for me, at this point, I didn't buy Gucci bags, and I've lived very lean at this point, okay, of my unicorn team life. You take that profit and you put it into your team so that you can have more freedom, but in a really smart way. Okay. And some of you are like, yeah, but I did that before. Some of y'all have like strategizer and mobilizer trauma. Again, I want to say it's we're the villains, but also I feel bad because I think no one's teaching this right. They're writing books and then they become part of masterminds, but you actually don't know how to do it and what the processes are and how to have hard conversations. And that's what we realized, that, oh, we're really good at that. That's the unlocking that is needed in the industry. Okay. All right. Stage 3 is the norming stage. And this is your company on its way to 7 figures plus with a 30% or more profit margin. Okay. You have new products that support the minimum viable product that's being introduced. This is the time to introduce more products, possibly. Okay. I'm not saying that you're not going to have multiple products in stage 1 and stage 2, because stage 1, you're testing a few. Stage 2, you might have one product and it makes sense to kind of add and upsell. You're still going to have products, but this is like new, like stuff that possibly as a multi-hyphenate, you didn't even think you could do. Like for us, during the pandemic, I started a crystal company and a wine company. Okay. I couldn't have been doing that unless we were at least in stage 3 of the business. Right. And I actually felt bad. I was like, "Ooh, I don't want to start something new because I like my life right now." And Sarah's like, "Let's go. We can do it now." If I would have told her back when we were in that picture earlier in today's training, she would have been like, she might have said yes, but she probably would have quit 2 days later.
I would have been like,
I wouldn't even know why.
And I would have gone home and cried.
Yeah. This is why people quit and you don't know why, or they ghost you. Your team ghosts you.
Or even if you feel like your team is overbilling hours, like how many hours do they need to get all this stuff done? It's that level of complication that they're not able to say out loud, I feel like.
And so they don't know how to talk to you and you don't know how to talk to them. And actually the unicorn team process is really about communication. And It's so funny because when I was pitching my my book, they were like, nobody wants to read a book on communication. I'm like, oh, okay. So everybody just wants to suffer then. All right, I got you. Like, I get it. I was like, why do people like to suffer? Me and Sarah, honestly, now you're really getting to know us. Like behind the scenes, we're like, why don't people just want to win? Like, why do they want to keep proving that they are wrong? Right?
Why do they want a challenge that they know that it's going to be really hard? Like, who wants to work this hard and then be miserable? I don't understand. It's not values aligned.
Yeah, we are so not about doing it hard. Now, there are hard things that we do have to do. And those are the things that we go, if we get those out of the way, everything is flow. It's like the lazy river at the theme park. If we're willing to go off the scary tall ride and get down that slide and know that we're still alive at the bottom, now we've elevated ourselves to lazy river status, right? But you guys generally speaking, are doing it backwards because no one has been teaching it this way. They might teach scaling systems by like giving you a bunch of templates. Yeah, okay. But if you don't know how to use the templates and you don't even know the communication cadence to have the templates, you're never going to
And
get
you
it
don't
done. It's
have the
just,
right people with the right mindset to own the templates, then you just have a whole bunch of templates out that you're trying to figure out what's going on with it.
yeah. So again, I think, can we all just make a pledge that we're no longer going to be villains inside of our business? I want you to take a pledge. I will no longer be a villain inside of my business. No mas inside of the chat. I want to see your commitment because I am a villain too, y'all. And by the way, I'm still not perfect today, but I gotta say I'm like 95% there though.
I think 98. You've done really
Well,
good.
thank you. But because I like my life to get easier.
Yes.
And that's something you have to choose, that you're going to let go of the trauma that says, I have to work so hard to prove that I deserve this.
That part, that proving energy.
That proving energy, that
Yes.
prideful energy, that energy of feeling like you need to fluff your peacock feathers is so wasteful of the one precious life that you're living. You became an entrepreneur to build great shit, to help other people. And so you're trying to avoid it by delegating it to people who don't even know what you're doing. Doesn't make any sense.
And then
okay?
It creates that like positive feedback loop of course they're going to get it wrong because they don't know what you're talking about. And then we say, oh, see, this proves that nobody will understand me. Like it's this angst cycle that happens again and again and again. So yes, amen to that.
And Amy, I noticed that you said like, you know, your husband is slowing down the intensity. Here's the interesting thing. Sarah mentioned this earlier. It's not about slowing down the intensity. It's also empowering your mobilizer and strategizer roles.
Yes.
To handle that energy, but also transform it back to you in a way that makes you be put at ease. Like you're, oh my God, they actually have this. This is like the best, right? Do you know that I was sharing yesterday, I was in a meeting with an outside client and I was like, they were like, oh, well, we sent you an email. I said, well, I haven't seen it in my Slack yet. They're like, how does your email get to your Slack? I said, I don't read emails unless it's in my Slack. And they're like, what? I go, no, I don't read email. That's why Sarah, it drives her crazy. But like I have 55,000 unread emails, but it's because 55,000 of those emails don't matter to me. Right?
Anxiety. Let's not name the number. We can talk about the process.
Okay.
Let's not name the
Yeah.
number,
So
I end the day with 0 in my inbox. I can't.
So see, a great mobilizer loves inbox 0. A great visualizer could give a shit.
Close the loop.
Okay. And so I let go of my need. Like whenever I would see I have to be inbox 0 to be like productive, or I got to wake up at 5 a.m. I'm like, no, I'm not a morning person. And I am definitely not going to be an inbox 0 person. That's just, if I do that, I'm going to waste all my time thinking I suck instead of going, here, the emails I do need to read, team, can you check it every day and just put in my Slack so I focus on the things I need to focus on? That right there, if you do that, will change your life. Okay. And part of why, and by the way, banning Slack, I saw that Gina banned Slack. It doesn't matter what system you use as long as you're not doing things wasteful. That's the main thing. Like if you can manage everything in email or manage everything in like a program like Monday or whatever, fine. But the key is don't have multiple communication points in various areas. Okay. So when you're in the norming phase, you are scaling your traffic. So you start to see that your paid ads funnel is working. So you put more money towards that. You double down on partnership marketing. You double down on getting more publicity potentially. These are all traffic mechanisms, okay? Your business model is now pretty solid. So you're finalizing your business model. Doesn't mean you can't build other business models. You absolutely can, but this one is really solid, right? So now as Visionizer, you are a Visionizer plus a part-time strategizer. You are no longer a mobilizer at all. You are no longer the butcher, the baker, or the candlestick maker. You go and buy those things now, okay? And this is the role you are in the norming phase. So at this point, the mobilizer, because remember in stage 2, you hired that person. They own the operational and financial reporting, and that includes project management, all the tic tacs, we call them, all the details. They own details. And at this point, you're hiring part-time strategizers to do marketing, sales work, and scaling your offer. So for example, you might hire like a paid ads team on an ongoing basis on retainer, versus in stage 2, you might have just did it for a project, versus like now you have an ongoing budget for paid advertising. You have an ongoing budget for a social media assistant. Social media assistant is in the strategizer category because they are marketing and sales. Do you see the difference? Operations finance, if you have like an accountant, they are in the mobilizer role in your company. So the visionizer typically is just the visionizer. It's the mobilizer and strategizer, that's the big departments. And Sarah's going to talk about the sub departments of that. Is it today or tomorrow? Is it today? You can talk about that? I can't remember.
Tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow.
Oh yeah, it's tomorrow. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So she's going to talk about something called the autonomous structure method, which is like categorizing under the mobilizer and the strategizer, how you manage it. Okay. All right. Finally, the performing stage. Everybody's desire is to get to stage 4. And this is where you have a predictable 7 figures plus company with a 30% or more margin. I saw, Shauna, you asked about, does that include your salary? Of course it does. There's no such thing as profit without paying yourself first. Okay. So whatever your revenue goals are, if they don't include you paying yourself, they're not the right revenue goal. Okay. A lot of your, let's give examples of that. Like maybe your project management system, like how projects are run, it's standardized. How you run campaigns, marketing campaigns, standardized, right? How you fulfill delivery for your services, standardized. Okay. There's actually a playbook now that if you had to replace a mobilizer or strategizer in your team, they could at least be 70% ahead based on the systems inside your business. Okay. In stage 4, scaling your offers is a lot easier. You can also sell your business at this point because you'll be very attractive to somebody who wants to acquire it or merge with it. And then at this point, you are fully a visionizer. Like the sky's open, the angels are singing. You are a full visionizer. And guess what? That only happens in stage 4, friends. If you try to be only a visionizer in stage 1 through 3, you will have people quit. You will have a lot of stops and starts in your business. You will continue to be the villain. So I guess what you're hearing me say is you're not off the hook completely during this process, but you're working on the right hooks. That's the key. So then you know, and you have hope and belief versus wondering what the heck you're doing and why people are giving you drama on your team. So in this space, the mobilizer still owns operational financial reporting, but you will be able to hire a full-time strategizer and strategizer team, which is like a dream come true, right, Sarah? Like to have a full-time strategizer team is every small business's dream. Oh my God. Like such a dream. It's possible, but you just have to be also, as a visionizer, you have to be a brand people want to work with.
Yeah.
By showing what you can do. And if you're so busy micromanaging your team or being angry at them or silently resenting your whole life, you are wasting your time when you could be showing off to potential intrapreneurs, because that's what mobilizers and strategizers are. They're not entrepreneurs, they're intrapreneurs, that you are a company that they'd want to work for. You'll have your Sarah Pikes knocking on your Facebook Messenger DM and saying, hey, I want to apply for that job that you have posted, even though you say I'm overqualified for it. And that's true ownership. And I don't believe that happened by accident. I believe that because I put myself in a place of service and I was able to show and model to somebody like her. And there's a lot of people like Sarah. Would you agree? I mean, Sarah's like honestly like the best ever in this role, truly. And there are a lot of people who are just as organized as her and like have big dreams and want to have a more easeful life and not 100%. Have like, if they're a virtual assistant or an OBM, they don't want to have 7 different clients.
Yeah.
They have no desire for that, but they're like, I can't afford to only work with one person. If that's they are out there and you are just not in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
Where they would come to you and go, you know, actually, this would be a great thing for me too, because you're busy working on the details inside of your business. Okay. So now this is where brands break. And what I mean by that is what the bullshit on the internet street says to you. Okay. Everybody is marketing to the stage 1 and the stage 4s. But really what they're marketing is the stage 4s to the stage 1s. Are you following me on that? They're showing you what you could be, and they're not even at stage 4 yet, or stage 4 doesn't apply to stage 1. So you're in stage 1 thinking, I should be doing all of these things, and you actually should only be doing a few things because you're not a stage 4 company yet. And the interesting thing is the storming stage and the norming stage that I mentioned, they don't have any, there's no work on that. There's no books on it. That's why I wanted to write the book on this. And they were like, yeah, but consumers are, this is what they said to me, but they didn't say it just like this, but this is how I heard it. People are stupid, and you can only talk to them on the polars. You can only talk to them on the stage 1 or stage 4. No one cares about stage 2 or 3. I was like, so that's why we have a problem where only 1 to 3% of people are succeeding financially in the United States, is because they're being held back from these 2 stages. And they feel like they suck at stage 1 because why can't they get to stage 4? So leapfrogging from stage to stage is not realistic. So take a load off your shoulders if you're stage 1, 2, or 3, and know that it's okay. This is the right process, because stage 1 and 4 are what I call romanticized and highlighted online. A good marketer, I shouldn't say good, an effective marketer markets to the outliers. The stage 1s, there's always going to be a lot of stage 1s. Why? Because just like babies, there's always going to be businesses that are born. So there's always fresh, new idiots. And okay, when I say that, I'm literally telling you what the publishers told me. They're like, basically people are dumb and they're not going to get, I'm like, I just don't want to believe that. I want to believe that they actually want to grow. And if I have to self-publish this thing to get it out there, I will do it, right? That was the conversations that I was having. If you follow me on Facebook, I write a lot about how hard writing this book was because of those comments. Being somebody who's a really good marketer and to be told that I don't have an addressable market, I was like, yes, I do. You know how I know? Because Sarah Paikai and I have made millions of dollars helping stage 3s and stage 4s. And I can tell you that they have the same problems. They're hurting. They're actually like, they've built themselves something they don't want and they don't know how to undo it now. And if we could just get to the stage 1s and 2s first, we would help a lot of people. And that's what books are for. They're for like mass consumption. And then you work with people because you actually want to get it fixed, right? Stage 2 and stage 3 is where brands break. This is when you have to take a sabbatical for 6 months and make no money because you're totally traumatized from leading. Mm-hmm. Or you just shut down your business completely and you start a new business thinking it's going to be different. It's industry agnostic, this process. It doesn't matter if you have one business and then you're like, okay, I just got to do it. I need to do another addressable market, or I need to be a real estate investor, or I need to be whatever. It's all the same, y'all. Like the process is the same. Okay. So with that said, that's the first part of the workshop done. Curious, what was your biggest takeaway from this part of the workshop? And my question is, are you committed to thinking like a visionizer, not a visionary? Now we're going to talk about setting strategic initiatives, where we're going to share with you the 1-page strategic plan that we use to run the company. And it's something that after being in business for 16 years, I have noticed is similar amongst all small businesses. And so you can literally take what we did and then add your stuff into it. So as I mentioned up top, in our ways of being, our whole thing is about simplifying to amplify. And that 1-page strategic plan that we're about to go through with you is based on the stage of business that you're in. Okay. So remember, we went through stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I want you to be thinking about what stage you're in as you listen to this part of the training. Okay. So I'm going to have Sarah walk through the details with you, but let me give you the context of this one-page plan. The cool thing is we actually gave you the template. It's at www.unicorn-team, I think it's .com/dashboard. Okay. And Sarah will put it into the chat, that actual template that you can use. And let me show you how we do it. There are 3 core strategies of a company. You have to grow the business. You have to improve financial performance quarter over quarter or year over year, and you have to deliver superior experience. Okay, those are the 3 main things that companies need to do in order to make a 30% profit and help as many people as possible. So the first thing that you do is you start with your offer, like your main offer. And again, if you're like in stage 1 and you have a bunch of offers, or you're like, pick the one that has the high, in fact, you know what I'm going to pick the one that costs the most. That is the highest investment that somebody outside has to pay for. That's how you start. And then you architect the brand around the offer. All right. So in the 3 sections, the owner of growing the business is typically the visionizer and the personal brand. That's mainly through visibility, right? Through visibility of the company's mission, culture, values, products, services, frameworks, teachings, etc. Okay. The next is improving financial performance, which is the offer brand, because what makes us money is our offers. Right? If you want to convert even traffic through a funnel, traffic doesn't convert if the offer is not good. If the offer isn't, and when I say not good, not just that it's not good, but it's not being messaged well. So that is the strategizer's main role. And in this strategy, this is their main line. Okay. And the third is deliver superior experience, which is delivery, which is internal systems, external customer service, finance, accounting, all of those systems in place such that when both external and internal stakeholders interact with the company, they're feeling an experience that is on brand for the company. And so that's deliver superior experience. And the owner of that is the mobilizer. In each one of these core strategies, there's a supporting role. In the grow the business one, it's the strategizer. In the improve financial performance one, it's the mobilizer. And in the deliver superior experience, it's the visionizer. Why? Okay, well, growing the business and the personal brand is about visibility usually. Visibility, authority, approachability, right? So the visionizer is the one who's speaking the word, if you will, of the brand, right? And the strategizer is helping to guide the visionizer on that. Now, if you're in stage 1 of your business, you're both of these people. That's fine. But you know that you're wearing 2 hats as you build out your metrics. Okay. Improve financial performance means we've got to make more money and save more money, right? Meaning, but we won't save more money to stunt growth, but we have a 30% profit margin goal, right? The main owner of selling offers is the strategizer, and gets support from the mobilizer for all the project management, all the launch plans, all the ways about to do the thing. And then delivering superior experience is a lot of the internal machinations of the company that then express the outside of the company, right? And so the mobilizer owns this core strategy, and they are supported by the visionizer because in this case, the visionizer communicates, here's how I want our customers to feel. This is how I'd like them to experience Master Brand Institute, which is my company, right? And so through that vision and through communicating that vision, the mobilizer takes it and turns on the machines that will make it happen that way. So that's the 3 core strategies. And when I say this, I want you to understand, you don't have to make your own core strategies up. These 3 are the core strategies that if you're running the Unicorn Team system, These are all you need to hit $1 million or more. Okay. You can add some, but why? Back to like, we're not trying to create busyness. We're trying to grow a business, right? And so with these 3 core strategies, that's how you get to it. So now you're probably wondering like, how do I do it? What do I fill in here? So I'm going to let Sarah take that over. Okay. And go from there.
Perfect. So of all 3 core strategies that you could start with, you always want to start with improving financial performance, the offer brand there. Okay. And so remember, depending on what stage you're in, when it says strategizer, that's likely going to be you. And if not completely you, if you're say like in stage 1 or stage 2, that at the very least, you're going to have a lot of influence over that. So I'm assuming for most people watching or present with us today, as well as watching the replay, think about it with that hat, right? That hat on of you're not in the mindset of how do I improve financial performance based on this big vision of how I want to help millions of people and make millions of dollars and what I'm going to be known for and who's going to use my intellectual property and how do I scale that and be, build my platform. I really want you to think about getting strategic when you're in this bucket here, just like a strategizer would, which is what's the offers that are going to really help move forward your financial goals, improve financial performance for this particular year. So you'll see in the column right next to it where it says annual goal is core strategy, then annual goal. Perfect. You see in there, I have a set of prompts that are really, it's not meant for you to like answer these questions perfectly because then that's somehow going to come up with the magical A+ solution that you got right. It's more just open-ended prompts to really get you thinking and really turning your attention and focus to specific areas. So we start here first in improving the financial performance and thinking about the offer with the strategizer hat on, asking questions like, how much money does the company need to make this year? How much money do you want the company to make this year? Because sometimes those are 2 different numbers. And can you find a number that meets in the middle? Why do I put that? I think if I ask, how much money does a company need to make a year? You're probably going to calculate your personal bills, your advertising spend, your software expenses, your team payroll, things of the like, right? Networking fees that you might have, so on and so forth. And that might be where you start, smaller number. Let's pretend that that number is 135,000. Okay. 135,000 is how much money you need to make. Now, if I ask you, how much money do you want to make? I'll bet you most of you will say 7 figures. I want to make $1 million, right? Because that's what's out there. And it's personal goals that we have. Maybe you've done it in the past or you've seen someone do it and you're like, if they can do it, I can. So we have this number of how much we want to make. What I always like to do is to encourage you. You start with the must, how much we absolutely need to make. And then think about an average that's kind of in between your pie in the sky. This would be absolutely amazing, bonkers. I feel like I won the lottery sort of number, and find the interim. Some people don't listen when I tell them to do that process. Sometimes they're like, no, I just need to focus on what I need. And sometimes people are like, oh no, I can easily make what I need. I want to focus on this goal number. That's cool too. Like I said, they're prompts. Every business is different. You have to choose with what aligns with your values. But remember, you're having the strategizer hat on. No matter what number you pick, you have to be able to feel like you can deliver an offer and sell the offer and enroll people into the offer in a way that helps you hit those numbers. So you can't just say, I want to go from $50,000 a year to $1 million. So if you have the strategizer hat on, if you have the visionizer hat, maybe. If you have the mobilizer hat, you'll probably come up with every single funnel and all these logistics, all these things that you think will move the needle forward, but neither of those are going to actually help you make the money. The strategizer hat goes based off of the offer and the brand and the trust that I need to build around this offer. What's the goals that we have to hit here? Okay, so you start there. Next slide, please. Thank you. So once you have that, I like to move into delivering superior experience. You see, this one is owned by the mobilizer and that it is also supported by the visionizer. Why do I want to go there next? Because when you think about re-enrollments, returning clients, If you think about referrals, so current clients you have that are going to go out and tell someone else, and because they know you and how amazing your work are, they're going to refer someone else to you. All of that is in the bucket of how to deliver superior experience. So some of the prompts for this annual goal are things like that. How much of the revenue number that we talked about when we started with our number is going to be made up by enrollments? What or what are some of the things that need to be done with this, with the offers, with the programs to make it easier to do, to make it more exciting, to make it more in alignment with what we want to be known for and how people really experience the intellectual property that is yours. And by intellectual property, I mean your methodologies, your use cases, as we call them, or frameworks, the services that you provide that really facilitate them moving from point A to point B. All of those things are part of the brand experience, the company brand experience that people are feeling. And therefore, that's why it's owned by the mobilizer with support of the visionizer. Jen, is there anything you want to talk about specifically in this particular bucket that stands out to you when you think about company brand and brand experience?
Mm-hmm. Well, I just want to emphasize that you make more money and more impact by continuing to do great service for your current clients. And that's why this is number 2, because a lot of people go to, when I say number 2, it's more like this is the sequence that we go through when we're doing our strategy, is when you are in the offer brand position, doing that first, it's so easy for us to go, oh, I'm going to make up all the gaps I had from last year here, right? But the truth is there's a lot hidden here that you're probably not looking at, and you're not allowing the mobilizer to solve. Okay. And by the way, if you're all 3, you have to think like a mobilizer. That's the part I wanted to emphasize. You have to think like a mobilizer. How can I tighten up systems? How can I put some elegant shortcuts in the process for the client experience? How can I make it more organized so that people understand what to do next? These are the things that the mobilizer thinks about because they love it to be organized in like very A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? When you mix that with the visionizer's vision, that allows also the mobilizer to learn how the visionizer thinks. And it's kind of funny because when you're in stage 1, you're going to think you're tripolar. Because you will literally be talking to yourself around, when I was on my own and I had to think in these 3 different ways, my recommendation, I'm not even joking, is I would have 3, like the Post-it, the big paper in my office. I actually have one of them still. And I would put it on the wall and I would just write, okay, if this is vision, this is strategy, and this is execution. At the time, I just called it execution, but I like mobilization better. So I didn't like executioner. I liked mobilizer better. So, but in a way, the mobilizer sometimes does feel like the executioner. So anyway, I had it on the wall. And I would literally go, okay, this is my goal. I want to do X amount of products sold. Like at the time I wanted to sell this product called Master Brand, the Master Brand program. We still have it. We just don't sell it anymore because we have big plans for it. Like, stay tuned. But I was like, if I wanted to sell 30 units of this Master Brand program, that would be under this piece, right? Improving financial performance. And the product at the time cost $2,000. So that's $60,000, I think, right? And I had some one-on-one consulting clients. And I knew that I probably needed to work with them for another year before I turned it into a group program. So in my mind, it was like, how can I create such great experience for these like 5 one-on-one clients that they're all paying me like $10,000 each at the time. How can I make it even better for them so that when I open up the group program, they'll want that, right? So that right there is 10,000 times 5 is 50,000. So you've got 60,000 plus 50,000. Those would be what are in my buckets here if I were redoing this at the time in stage 1. And so from a mobilizer perspective, right, I'm doing for the 5 one-on-one clients, I'm going, how could I get them to a breakthrough faster? What are things that they've told me that they really want that I feel like can be supported by me? How can I communicate that in a way for them to be excited about it? These are mobilizer questions, right? versus getting the 20 units sold of master brand program up here would be like, I got to think through this whole campaign. You see, like, okay, and strategizers, they build launches and campaigns and traffic and conversion. So I had to think like that in terms of, which Sarah's going to get to next, like how I put my metrics to show that I could do that. But I wanted to give you a real life example of where I was mindset wise back in the day when I was a stage 1 business. Does that make sense?
I also think too, for those of you who we talked about right in the stages prior to this, the profit margin, the deliver superior experience is also about how do we make things more efficient and effective without sacrificing quality. And as you're learning to do those small hinges that swing big doors, that's where profit margin comes from. I want you to think about it this way. Your brand experience of how you deliver your programs is a big portion of what makes or breaks your profit margin. If you don't have a very clear, efficient way that is standardized but flexible structure that's still, because you need enough structure that anybody can go through it, that your team can do it and can do it effectively to take the customer through each phase of what they need to do when working with you. But it can't be so standardized that the customer doesn't feel any soul in it and doesn't get any results. That's my issue with people who have evergreen products. How do you know it's actually effective, right? But you think about it this way. Anytime your team has to repeat themselves to each other or to a client, and you do that times 1, times 2, times 3, times 4, and then that's just for one client now, okay? So internal communications, I'm telling Jen, hey, somebody brought master brand. They have a question about this that I'm not sure how to answer. And Jen goes, well, here's the answer. Then I go to the client. Okay, here's your answer from Jen. And the client says, oh, well, that's not my question. This is my question. And I go back to Jen. Hey, they have this other question about master brand. You see this? That happens over and over and over again. You take that and you times it by 20 clients, 30 clients, 50 clients. And then later on, when you're looking at your P&L, your profit and loss reports, and you're like, where does my profit margin go? It's the amount of time and friction that's spent in that. Now imagine master brand needs more than just me and Jen. Imagine it also has a head coach and it has someone who sends out replays of the calls. Now you're timesing that across all of the positions, across all of the clients. So you're growing and you're making more money. But if you think about paying yourself in the profit margin, it's because there's all of this friction in the brand experience and in the way the team is trained and held accountable to uphold that brand experience that's actually eating away at that profit margin. And therefore, it's keeping you locked in stage 1, in stage 2, in stage 3 to not get to where you ultimately want to be because there's all of this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then you have turnover. Somebody leaves, somebody takes medical leave, someone takes maternity leave, and even more so, right? So this delivering superior experience part, yes, it's all about brand experience and the feeling that you want people to have, that high touch strategic feeling that you want them to have to make sure that you're doing the vision and you're fulfilling on the promise of the program and all these great things that we're obsessed with, that they're understanding it, that you're communicating this curriculum and the way that you do things, all of those things. That's really important. And though, you really need to think about how can we streamline this? Because the freedom that you want is also coming from this consistent things, because the clients can feel it. When there's friction in a team, when there's friction in the communication, when you're not clear, the clients can tell, the customers can tell. It impacts them on a level sometimes that they don't even know how to name. But if you're looking at re-enrollments, retention, referrals, that kind of easy, juicy, amazing money that comes that the mobilizer has ownership of helping to expand more of, that comes when the clients feel seen and heard and trusted and they're being taken care of and they feel like they're clear on what needs to happen. And so that's my soapbox as a mobilizer, why I'm so passionate about brand experience and really what it can do for the revenue side of your business as well. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. And then lastly, after we look at all of those things, we go up into how are we going to grow the business? Because improving financial performance and selling the units of like how many offers you want to, how many clients you want to have in a particular offer, and then going really deep and really just making sure that you're efficient and excellent in how you work with the clients and getting referrals. That's not enough to get you to the next stage of where you want to go. So many people think that that's all of it. That's what we're told online, right? Like irresistible offers that convert because you threw a funnel on it. And that's just not how that works. That's a different discussion for a later date. Just trust us. That's not how that works. What you really need to also have in play is how you're growing the business, how you're growing the visibility, your lead generation, how new leads are finding you, how they're resonating, how the right leads, not just numbers of, oh, I got these many people to opt into my email list. That's cool. But if they don't know, like, and trust you, and they're not the right buyer persona with the right authority to spend the money on your offers, then I mean, that's cool that you have the numbers, but what does it do? It doesn't actually help you grow the business. So being very intentional, that's why it's owned by the Visionizer of it's the Visionizer's face, their intellectual property, their vision of what they see is possible to do or change in the marketplace. And then it's co-owned and supported by the strategizer who goes, well, that's amazing that that's what you want to do. Here is the best platforms I think that you should be on. Here's the types of live events you should be speaking at. Here's the types of friends you should have. Here's the types of PR that we should get, media we should get for the company in front of these right types of outlets or to be guests on a podcast. Here's the way we want to show up on social media. Here's the types of stories we want to tell. And it's really a co-creation between the two of them that oftentimes that I see people who are in stage 2 businesses, especially who are so close to stage 3. The reason why they can't get over that bump and move upwards is because they're so obsessed with controlling the offer brand and the brand experience because they have imposter syndrome, or they feel like this was their baby, or nobody's executing it quite like how they would, or they just really feel like people don't see the value and they're lamenting over why can't people see me? The reason is you're not doing the things that are helping grow the business. We're so stuck on the past experiences of what we had to do coming up from stage 1 and through stage 2. And we're using that all as data to convince ourselves that we have to have that proving energy or try more or fighting our feelings around this is just hard. And I don't know why people can't just value me, right? We're going through all those things and I'm not making fun of anybody, I promise. But what I'm saying is the cure to that is the things that you're probably avoiding actively of growing the business and your personal brand, putting yourself out there more, getting clear on your stories, talking to more people, networking, making friends, putting yourselves in rooms where things are happening, getting the right mentorship and guidance for you. And that is that piece right there that helps you climb up the ranks and hit the tipping point to where you want to go. And so we tackle that one last because it's bigger. It's usually things that are harder to justify because they don't make money immediately. I'm talking about like when Jen Kem tells you guys the places to be are LinkedIn and YouTube. Those are the types of initiatives that go there where you're like, well, I don't know if somebody's going to go on LinkedIn or watch my YouTube video and then buy my offer. Maybe not now, but in 6 months from now, the right person that you want to reach then, they need to start consuming your content today, right? So It's those types of KPIs that we put into there that, yes, I know the prompt literally says, how many new leads do you need to come in? But those are the ways that we're thinking about it is where else do we need to do, where else do we need to be and what else do we need to do so that we get the right eyeballs on what we're building and this work in the world to create that momentum.
Mm-hmm. So good. Another example is the book I'm writing on Unicorn Team. That went in this bucket because the book itself doesn't help us grow our business now, right? But it helps us when it comes out to magnify what we're already doing. Look, guys, think about it. This book is not going to come out till next year, but we're doing a Unicorn Team workshop now. And I've been talking about it like the whole year. Why? Because I know that you have to start consuming and understanding this so that next year when I want to do my book launch, you're like, I need to tell everybody about this way of doing business, right? It's all strategic. That's the strategizer in me talking to the visionizer in me and saying, write that freaking book, yes, go do it. And I'm like, I want to write the book, but when am I going to find time? And the mobilizer's like, you don't have anything to do on Mondays and Fridays, like go work on that part of the core strategy. And I want you guys to understand that these are real conversations that we're having just using this piece of paper. That's it. Instead of, now underneath all of this are details, of course, but this is the North Star of the year. Like, sorry, you're going to go into like what these columns are too?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that
Yeah,
now or?
sure.
Okay.
So that's the process. The process is to fill out the annual goals first in that order with those prompts and that context that I just shared. Generally, we do this across 2 or 3 days, and we will take a break after we finish setting the annual goals and just kind of like let it sit and we all understand the objective. Then the next day, we'll come in and we'll look at the key performance indicators. So you see each of these arms: growing the business, improving financial performance, delivering superior experience. They all have key performance indicators. And what we're doing essentially is saying, based off what we're saying this annual goal is, we're translating it out into these 3 markers that we are absolutely betting on will help us achieve our annual goal. So let's do this book, for example, okay? So if part of the annual goal for Master Brand Institute under Grow the Business is that we're opening up new conversations around unicorn team, and we're really dialing in on the 4 areas that we help people with the most, right? So team, identity, messaging, experiences. Like this is Jen's jam. So our annual goal is really to make sure that those pillars, if you will, of this framework are what is going out, and that we're getting the amount of leads, traction, eyeballs, all of those things on Jen around those core areas. So the first thing that I know, just because I know it like the back of my hand, the first thing for our KPIs is the YouTube channel, that we're really dialing in on the type of content that we're doing on YouTube. Because we know it's a search engine. People are literally typing, asking, how can I better do my team dynamic? How can I better grow my team? How can I get my team to listen to me more? When they're Googling or typing those things, YouTube is returning that as, hey, you typed in team and growth. Jen Kem has a video about team growth. Instagram doesn't do that. Facebook doesn't do that. TikTok doesn't do that. YouTube has that, right? So that's why we picked it. The strategizer hat said, this is a great place for us to bank on. And plus, it's going to be a very strong platform that's going to win in the industry overall. Okay, second thing, what's the second thing that we know will help us do that? The book. So we have very specific key performance indicators around what we want to do with the book, how we're going to position it, what we want to see publishers buy into so that she can write the thing that we know is going to become this lead and traffic generator for us in years to come. And then the third thing for growing the business and personal brand is actually in person for Jen this year. She's calling it Slay the Bay, but it's about her being able to be in the Bay Area, making friends, interacting, networking with the right people, contributing and being of value in different spaces there. Because there's a whole thing that the strategizer has under why this in-person move is the best one. And then finally, we go into the notes section. So we'll say specifically, what does that mean in terms of platforms or numbers? Because for me, it's not enough that we have a KPI that says, grow the YouTube channel. Okay, cool. But specifically, team, what does that mean? So my strategizers that work on that one will come back and say, we want to get X amount of watch hours because then we can run paid targeted advertising. We want this type of engagement because it helps in the algorithm. And we want these many more subscribers because then it'll help us with the this, and this that we're doing, and we're deploying it strategically for other usages. I don't know. It's like blah, 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 to me, right? I trust it, but I'm like, okay, cool. So that's an example of that. Same thing for the book being the second KPI. Specifically, what does that mean in terms of platforms or numbers? We're listing how many hours we want to allocate for Jen to be able to spend on the book project, what kind of budget we're thinking that we'll need to market the book, therefore, what kind of book advance we're looking for. It's all of those types of things that are written that, again, it differs for every single company, every single unicorn team, and it differs depending on your stage of business. When we were in stage 1 of Master Brand Institute, way back when, 8-9 years ago, that's not what our key performance indicators were. Growing the business was about how do we create our first live event so that people can know more about what we do. And the metrics of the notes of like what we meant in terms of numbers, 25. We wanted 25 people in the room. We didn't hit it. We got 17. But then I got 100. We got 100% conversion of all 17 people bought the next product. Right. So it varies and it changes and it grows over time. The key is when you're doing this, that you have this sequence set up, that you're doing it in the right way. So you're not just getting stuck in any one of these cells or these buckets that you see. And also that you're not overshooting and just only having Visionizer hat on of like, here's all the things that I think would be amazing to have. Cool, that's great. But it's called a strategic plan for a reason, right? It's a strategic plan that then now every contractor who works in our business, every team member who works under the mobilizers, who works under the strategizers, knows what these particular metrics are. So when I'm hiring someone for YouTube and editing now, I can vet them and say, okay, so our goals for this year for YouTube is to create content that's engaging, because the math that my team has for the strategizers, they're saying we have to have these many more subscribers, this much watch time, so on and so forth. What kind of content have you created or that you see is working really well that can also be used for Jen to help us in our editing? Do you see how that is such a specific query now that I can put out even when I'm hiring or onboarding or measuring team performance? And that's the point of what the key performance indicators are. You're not going to get this right overnight. It's so fluid for me because you can see I do this for a living, right? I consult, and this is what we do in our programs is I'm always just looking at, okay, what are your initiatives? What do you have going on? Have you asked these questions? Because it's like this, like in the back of my hand for me. But for you to put in that intention and that area of focus using Unicorn Team as a filter is super important if you actually want to go through the stages from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 without burning out or hating your life along the way.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And it's so exciting to see, like, I got to tell you, this core strategy one pager, it wasn't really a one pager before. Sarah put it into one page because she's like, there's too much information here. Let's just streamline it. But this particular process I brought from the corporate world. I'm like, the reason my team always won over there is because we were always clear on what our goals were. And at the time, 9 years ago, I told myself, I want to build a company that has a very good process to do that so no one's confused. And it used to be actually pages and pages long. And then Sarah's like, we actually only need one page, and here's why. And I was like, yes, clean that up, girl, do it. Right. And now we have a one pager that we can even sell to people. Do you see that? Like, we can, and we're happy to because we know it works. But the other thing I hope you caught what Sarah said is that we use this for all team members, whether they are contractors, consultants, or full-timers. You do not treat contractors different. So meaning, sometimes you get a contractor and they have other clients, usually, I mean, they would have to make any money, and they have their own process of doing things, right? We don't care if the how they do it to get the result is different than ours, but they have to be hitting the goal we hired them for.
Yes.
Okay, that's key. Because what's the point in hiring somebody if they're like got their own like mission when it comes to your account, to your business? That doesn't make any sense. And so we use this as a communication tool and an accountability tool, because contractor money is expensive. Usually it costs actually more to have contractors than it does to have employees in the long run. Okay. And also sometimes it doesn't make sense to have full-time employees. It really depends on your business. And that's why Sarah said, like, but what's cool is this doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
The nuance and the discernment of what you've got going on will change, but not this process. Okay. And I wanted to also say, I need to see, for the show of hands inside of the chat, how many of you would wish that me and Sarah could actually help you build this out? Because maybe you want it, but your eyes are glossing over and you're like, oh my God. And if I give this to my executive assistant, I don't know if Sheila even know what to do, even if I have her listen to this video. How many of you feel that way? Right? Let me tell you what, I would have wanted somebody to do this for me in stage 1 and stage 2, because I'm always looking for somebody like me. I'll tell you that. I'm like, who can help me strategize and visionize a little bit more? And so what I know is that you can get all the templates in the world, but until you customize it to your business,
That
you
part.
will not adopt it, nor use it, nor it will help grow your business. So it has to be customized. This is why courses don't work for this kind of work. Okay. Even this workshop, I wish we had the time to like show all of you, but if you worked with us, and the cool thing is people don't know this, but now we mainly only do one-on-one and small group in person. Okay. And when I say in person, like live, even if it's through Zoom, because when we shut down that $2 million a year business in 2020, and it was stupid because that's when everybody adopted the online like work, we were already moving to the future. We were like, what's going to happen is all these new businesses are going to start and they're going to get stuck and tired and exhausted and burnt out. And we've got to build something that supports their brand living on forever. And that is how this all came to be.